Times of power are accelerated. You're able to blast through spiritual obstacles. Birthdays are a time of power. It was an entire day of magic and wonder. I ended up spending the entire day on the mountain. There is an opportunity where you can tap into a huge transformation.
Content you might see in like the autobiography of a yogi, like formless balls of light that some people could see and some can't.
And said everything is taken care of.
The greatest protection is just maintaining your purity of resolve to achieve the goal. Clairaudiently hear stuff mentally.
It was so well timed, like with the rain and everything. It is how the energies of the land work.
Thoughts that might normally tempt you under certain circumstances, like a fairy tale sort of trial and tribulation testing phase.
It is the journey to become Pono, to become righteous.
Welcome to my channel, Ra. What's going on, everybody? Today I've got Ra Netjer on the channel for a conversation about a magical experience he had in Hawaii on his birthday. And Ra is, by the way, Ra is a spiritual awakening mentor. He's an ordained Buddhist monk, and he's also my guru. So, yes, so the context for this story, guys, is now we were doing his class on the 7 factors for awakening. This was the factor of samadhi, right? Concentration in Buddhism. And he let us know that he was radio silent the day before on his birthday because it was a day full of, in his words, magic beyond measure. I believe that's what you wrote in your Facebook post. So when I saw his post the next day about what was going on, I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is like content you might see in like the autobiography of a yogi. And he let me know that there was actually a lot more to the story than the bullet points he wrote in that post. So here we are today. We're going to have a conversation about that. He's going to tell us the full story. And yeah, with that, welcome, Ra Netjer. Let's do it. Let's hear the story. And
Yeah.
yeah.
This, I'm so happy that you asked me, and we are here talking about this because it was an entire day of magic and wonder and power, and it unfolded so well. Birthdays are a time of power. Birthdays are when the sun is in the same spot that you as the day that you were born, right? It's the solar return. So the sun rises in the same constellation, etc. And during that time of power, when the conditions are very similar to when you were born, there is an opening. There is an opportunity where you can tap into a huge transformation. Times of power are like accelerated. It's like imagine you are playing Super Mario and when you get a power up which gives you the power to fire and this and this, and you're able to overcome all the obstacles very quickly. Otherwise you would have to be very careful and tong, 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 tong. And here you're just kind of blasting through everything. So this is that kind of time of power where you're able to blast through spiritual obstacles as well as things that you want to achieve practically, whether it's financial goals or you want to manifest things. It's also a great time for that. So birthday is a time of power where it's especially powerful spiritually because you incarnated here on this earth during this time. And if you want to tap into your higher purpose, your work that you're here to do, it's a great time to do that. So I let my birthdays, as much as possible, be led by life. I try to kind of be very flexible with my plans, if I have plans at all, right? So that the grand plan has so much more space to unfold. So with just a little bit of plan, I stayed on this mountain called Mauna Kea. Mm. The older name for this mountain is Mauna Kea,
Hmm.
if I remember correctly. Mauna Kea. And this mountain is actually the mountain where there are many Hawaiian gods who reside there. And these gods are called Akua. And this is a very sacred mountain for the Hawaiians. So, what I'm going to talk about today is my experience meeting the Akua, gods of the mountain, as well as two kahunas, two Hawaiian spiritual brothers who made this experience so much more magical. It was, it turned into a spiritual adventure. That's why I ended up spending the entire day on the mountain. That's why I am sunburned. If you can notice, I have red patches, and it's toned down a little bit after 2 days, but the last 2 days especially, I was extra red. So spending the entire day in the sun at that altitude. And Mauna Kea, this mountain, is the biggest mountain from its base, even though Mount Everest is the one that goes to the tallest altitude. From its base, this structure, this mountain, which has this volcanic eruption building this entire structure all the way from the base, and it's sloping very, very like easy slope like that. Mount Everest is like like this, but this is a very gradual sloping mountain, but it's very, very high. And it snows on top, in even though at the beach it could be 70, 80 degrees. It can be icy cold on the top, and it's a very special place. This is a place, spiritually speaking, where you can feel very easy to access these heavenly dimensions. And Mauna Kea, this is what it was called. Now it's called Mauna Kea. um, but Mauna Kea is in honor of Wakea, who is the creator god and protector of human life on Earth.
Okay.
And this was explained to me by one of the Hawaiian
The kahunas.
spiritual brothers. Yes.
All right.
And I have been connecting with the land of Hawaii for a long time. I have been visiting here, connecting to the energies, to the gods, and opening my heart to receive the blessings of the land. And there are so many cultural nuances that one can learn and know about, but the respect, the honor, the right etiquette, of being very respectful guest wherever you go. That is the essential part. So I may not know a lot of these things, the knowledge about the culture and things which I'm learning more and more. Um, but what is essential when you visit a a place of power, such as Mauna Kea, mm, is to go there with a lot of care, a lot of love, a lot of gratitude and honor in your heart. That opens the heart of the place to you. Mm. Mm. There is a beautiful reciprocation. So, just before my birthday, I felt I wanted to spend my time on Mauna Kea. And mm, I actually stayed there overnight, a little bit below um, the the mountain top, and on the day of my birthday, when the sun rose, I woke up with beautiful visions of what are known as mandalas, what are known as these are geometrical, sacred geometrical structures that I see a lot, especially after certain breakthroughs in my awakening, where I was able to access that very much as the the structure of space itself, the structure of the universe itself. And I'm able to see more and more deeply into that essential structure. And it's common in my meditation to see them more and more. But that day I woke up seeing a form of the structure. And when I meditated, as I was waiting at the parking lot of this Mauna Kea, at the top there are observatories that look up at the stars, because it's so high that, and we are in a very remote part of the world surrounded by the Pacific Ocean. This is one of the most remote parts of the world. Like if you look at this on the map, it's just like the entire earth all around that you see is just water, you know. And being so remote, it's a great place to look up at the stars. So there are observatories here, and people who come to visit have to acclimate to the altitude, because the altitude is so high. You have to stay, at a certain level. That's where the parking lot, the visitor center parking lot is. This is also, you know, kind of managed by people who are kind of trying to make sure you have had that acclimation before going up. So as I was meditating there, I had a breakthrough meditation where I was able to feel the essential mandala of this creation and feel my oneness with that, which was already huge. And it was a great way to start the day. But as um, as I went up there to the top of the mountain, I felt more and more called by the energy of the mountain. And a funny thing happened. I was in the car, and I was, you know, just about to put on my jeans and my sweater to go out because it's really cold there. It's windy and very cold, and people are usually, wearing a lot of weather protection. But I just felt a calling from the mountain, from the Akua. I later realized to just go as I am. So what I ended up wearing was a very thin cotton shirt and shorts that I was in. In Hawaii, you're wearing shorts that are. That's usually how people wear. I don't know if there are shops here. I have this cup from from here, and it's just like I picked this up and I realized, oh, it says Hawaii on it, and it's perfect for this episode. um, but here I s- I went in my shorts, and as I was nearing this trail, which go lets you go to the top, the very top of the mountain, which is a sacred place for Hawaiians, I felt called to even remove my shoes, and I was not wearing socks, and it was there's a lot of it's very rocky, sharp rocks, and you know it's a high desert kind of environment, right? And very dry, and when it snows, um, can be very cold. But I just went there, following this call, mm. and sitting there, mm, I was able to connect with one of the Akuas, one of the gods, deities. In case a goddess called poli'ahu, with whom I've been connecting more and more deeply recently. During the Lion's Gate opening, I was able to see her, feel her, get messages from her on 8/8 actually that morning,
Cool.
where we
Okay.
had a big event that you came to as well.
Hmm.
And on that day, I had seen Poliahu show herself um, in a very interesting way. There was a rock in front of me as I was meditating. She came onto that rock, and that rock was somehow, it looked exactly like the big island of Hawaii to me. This is the island that Mauna Kea is on. And she popped up at one place and said, everything is taken care of. You are loved. Mm. Mm. And on this mountain, um, as I meditated, we did world healing blessing. We'll talk about that more sometime. Mm. Mm. World healing blessing is where I connect to the energy of this mountain. Mm. I connect to my essential energy, which is one with energy of the universe. There is no separation. Mm. Mm. Energy of all that is, the essence of all that is, which even goes beyond energy. Mm. Mm. And with the help of this place of power, mm, in collaboration with this place of power, mm, in collaboration, if somebody is supporting that, mm, the Akua supporting that, mm, to bring that light to the entire world. And it's a very technical process that happens in the second attention, which is the intuitive attention. But it brings so much light and kind of projects it to anybody who is open to receive. And after that world healing blessing, poli'ahu came and channeled and spoke through me. And she spoke many blessings, but it ended with a couple of things. One is everything is taken care of, you are loved, which was from earlier. And then it's time to celebrate. Now it's time to celebrate.
Interesting. Okay.
And because it was my birthday, I was like, what do you mean celebrate? Are we going to have cake? Or, what kind of celebration is this? I was curious, but I knew there was something more to it. And as I walked down from this trail and about to go into the car, there were two men who jumped out of their truck, and one of them asked, "Do you have water? Do you have water? We need water." And I happened to have an entire extra bottle of water, and giving it to them was the sign for them, because the Hawaiian spiritual brothers, as I call them, they were told by Akua, the gods on the mountain, to ask us for water. And they had run out of it, and they had seen us performing this ceremony. And from far away, they could see the auras of the gods. They could see they could feel the presence of the Akua, the gods there, as this ceremony was going on. They were like, what should we do? And the gods said, don't disturb this. They are doing this in a very the words they used is, the Akua like your aloha.
Interesting. Okay.
And aloha is aloha is such a deep word. Alo means life. Ha is the breath.
Okay.
But it also means the love that we have. Like aloha aina is another word that I love so much. Aloha aina means love of the land.
Okay.
So the Akua considered us as keiki, which is children. And they said, don't disturb them. That would be heva, to disturb them. Heva is something that is not righteous, as opposed to pono, which is righteous. So if you disturb them as they are doing the ceremony, it would be heva. So just wait here. So they waited more than an hour as up there performing the ceremony. And when we came down, mm, 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 they had this beautiful connection with us. Mm, mm, And mm, the two brothers, mm, spiritual brothers, one being the elder, who is known as the Kahuna Nui, who is the teacher, mm, mm, and the younger one, who is learning. Mm. And what I loved so much about them is the humility. The younger one had so much humility. And he was like, "Oh, I recognize that I am Heva, that, I'm learning to be Pono. I'm not Pono yet. I'm not righteous yet, but I'm learning." And he was there. Both of them were there from Oahu. Um, you know, Hawaiian islands, there are many, and Oahu is the most populated one. I think there are about 1 million people living there. Um, and that's where um, the capital city is, and a lot of the tourism, Waikiki Beach, etc. is. So it's a much more city-like island, and the big island is, it's the biggest island in terms of land area.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the big island has more land area than all of the other islands combined,
Mm.
as well as having a snow-capped mountain as well as an active volcano. It has many different climates
Mm-hmm.
in one big island, which is pretty small compared to the the
Everywhere else.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
yeah, but the depth of what you can find here is immense. Mm. And yes, so they were from Oahu on a spiritual pilgrimage to meet mm, the gods Akua, and they were being led by Tutu Pele. Mm. Tutu is grandma, Pele is another goddess. Pele is the
Oh,
goddess of lava, mhm,
okay.
goddess of fire,
Mm-hmm.
and she resides at the active volcano, mm, Kilauea, which is where you can see lava. There are times when you can really see lava boiling, and there have been lots of eruptions. In fact, there were many earthquakes last night,
Mm.
like multiple earthquakes. And I woke up, and the entire house was shaking, and it felt like a powerful shift in the energy. And all this is so deeply connected. And we think, sometimes, oh, these things happen, and we see kind of they're random, but there is such a beautiful deep coincidence, um, which seems like a coincidence, like if you analyze, oh, why did it happen at this time? But it's not actually coincidence, but it's just happening in a very synchronistic way, all connected, because there is the grand plan unfolding, and we look at just the little things and we don't see the grand plan. But if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture,
Mm.
it all kind of makes sense. So, me feeling called to go there for my birthday, and the kahunas, the two brothers, told me it was raining 2 days there before that, and on the day that I arrived there, it was bright and shiny and clear, so clear that we could see the other peak. Mm. From Mauna Kea, you can see the peak of Mauna Loa, which is where Kilauea is, which is where Pele resides. Mauna Kea, the snow-capped mountain, is where Poli'ahu, the goddess of snow, resides. Mm. Along with the three main other gods, which I will also talk about. So, yeah, the three other gods um, that are there are Wakea, the main god of humans, the protector of humans, who the mountain is named after, Mauna o Wakea, which became Mauna Kea. So he's the god who is really protecting Earth, protecting. He created and he's protecting Earth, right? And the humans. And there is Ku, the warrior god. He is the god of war. He's the mm, mm, protector of heavens. He's the protector of the Akua. Mm. 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 And there is Papa, also the protector of earth. So these are the three main Akua there, and of course Poli'ahu resides there as well. And there are other Akuas and ancestors and protector beings that are there as well, that I could see and feel the presence of many, many times. And the the brothers said, I was called there by the Akua to come there on my birthday. And they were very pleased that I was there and performing all these ceremonies, giving the light, bringing the light of awareness, and receiving the blessings with honor and gratitude and love. And it was so well timed. It seemed like with the rain and everything, because it is how the energies of the land work. They work through the clouds, the rain, the winds. The wind had such a beautiful quality to it. The wind had such a mystical quality sitting there. And after we met the elder brother, the teacher, the Kahuna Nui, he went up there because he was Pono and he was welcomed to the top of the mountain. They ask permission before they go. They ask permission at every one of these sacred places, and he was allowed to come, but not the younger brother. So the younger brother stayed with us and taught us what was happening, teaching about the names that I mentioned, the Akoa, and the depth of their connection with them. Everything he talked about came from so much love and care and authentic respect for the land. And for me, that was a celebration to feel this connection with the land, because I was here in past lives. I was mm, mm, in the Polynesian Islands, where mm, mm, I have spent lifetimes connecting to the earth in this way, mm, connecting to the gods in this way, connecting to the community in this way. Mm. One of the deepest experiences was when I shared Ha with them. Sharing Ha is when you bring your heads together, you touch
Mm.
your heads,
Oh.
and you hold each other's mm, head lovingly and close, and you breathe together. Mm, mm, mm. You look into each other's eyes as you do that, and then you close your eyes and you breathe together the Ha. Mm. It's so powerful. It has a mystical quality when you do it. So when we did that, what I experienced was you realize that you are one breath. You realize that you are one spirit. Mm. The word breath comes from the word spirit. It is our connection to spirit. It is mm, our connection to this earth as spirit. Mm. Because as long as you breathe, you are here. Right? Mm. Mm. And as you share this breath, and sometimes we did it like 3 breaths, sometimes much more, but I noticed mm, the intention within was to kind of feel that oneness of the breath. Mm. And then after we shared how we hugged so lovingly, and these were, you know, I had only heard their name once. We just had met them like half an hour ago, but there was such a deep mm, oneness with them, mm, knowing them forever. Mm, mm. And then he also asked my permission to lay hands on me, and he chanted mm, in Hawaiian. Mm, 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 and performed a blessing which shook my entire being.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay.
I was sitting there and I was in tears and I was shaking from within because my entire being was celebrating mm, this reconnection, this reopening to the land, to the aqua, to the energies in a very, very powerful way. Mm. Mm. And we were there sitting and talking for about an hour and a half or so. Mm. As the other brother, the elder brother, performed the ceremony, and I could see, like he had seen when we were doing the ceremony, the auras of the gods. I could see the presence of the gods, the auras that were coming and blessing. Mm. Mm. And it's so magical. It may seem so otherworldly to talk about this to people who are not aware of these energies, who are not sensitive to anything that is outside of the physical, the 3D reality, right? But there is so much more to this world. It's so much more nuanced than just the material. There are
Yeah.
so many other dimensions.
Right. I
Good chance
mean,
to take a sip.
I was gonna say, you have the mug right there. You might as well go for it. I was like, I bet he's been waiting ages to take a sip of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so and this was just the first part of this because they invited us to um, go to a sacred lake with them. Mm, mm. And this lake is called Lake Waiau. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation because you know it, I'm just learning pronunciation of Hawaiian through these words that I'm learning little by little.
Hmm.
So Lake Waiau is a sacred lake where also the presence of poli'ahu is very strong, but it's the lake of the ancestors. Mm. One of the brothers, he told me when Hawaiian child is born, the umbilical cord, they bring the umbilical cord and put it into the lake
Okay.
as a connection with the ancestors, as a connection with the Akua.
Okay.
And it's such a sacred lake for the Hawaiians. And going with them, invited by the Akua, invited by them to go there and watch them so beautifully perform these ceremonies respectfully, like even before entering the trail to this land. They both stood there and asked permission. They chanted in Hawaiian and they were in tears mm, for in gratitude, in appreciation for the opportunity to be there, mm, for the opportunity to
Mm.
meet the Akua. And I couldn't help but tear up myself mm, because it was just so heart touching. Just asking permission first and praising the land, the Akua, mm, mm, and walking respectfully into the land, honoring all the each and every rock has mana.
Mm.
Mana is energy, power, spiritual power. Hmm. And I've always felt whenever I come to these places of power, like taking off my shoes. I didn't know why. I I usually go there with minimal clothing, like just a t-shirt. I'm usually wearing shorts, even when it's really cold. Even in places like Mount Shasta, I've spent hours in the snow in just a t-shirt
Wow.
because there is a lot of mana in these places. Hmm. And this mana, this energy keeps you safe. Mm. When you're respectful, when you're open, when you honor that energy. I when I got initiated as a monk on Mount Shasta,
Mm.
it was several feet of snow,
Okay.
and I was wearing a t-shirt and sitting there for more than an hour in deep snow is how I got initiated into being a monk.
Wow. Fun time. I was curious about that.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a time of power, place of power, and there is so much power that it lets you go beyond the physical. So as I was walking up the first trail, um, where there's this rock formation on the top, which is called kahu, and the Hawaiians go there with kupu, which is an offering. It's flowers. It's they beautifully, like origami, kind of fold um, leaves of different plants and trees in shapes that are really beautiful and very mindfully made. And they offer that. Um, and as I was walking up, it was, very rocky, sometimes slippery. But as I was stepping on the stones, instead of pain, which initially as I stepped there was pain, but it turned into such a loving and soft feeling that was giving me more and more of that mana from the land. Mm. So I felt intuitively, if I was wearing shoes, if I was wearing, a lot of protection, I was protecting myself from the mana. I was creating an obstacle from receiving the mana. So I just opened myself up and went there as I was called. Mm. And mm, they were talking as we went to on this trail, which is a quarter-mile trek. It can be, um, quite a journey going there. But as we were walking there, he was talking about how every stone there is an ancestor. Every stone there is full of energy, and to step carefully, walk carefully. Mm. And you're also being tested as you walk this trail, which I saw to be true, because there are, um, you know, energies that pull you and push you in a way, and you
Mm.
get thoughts that are kind of testing you. Mm. So if you have the right intention, mm, if you have the right honor and purity, mm, you pass the test naturally. Mm. Mm. But if there is selfishness, if there is, an ulterior motive, the wanting of something, or for yourself, there is there are things that happen where you may get injured, where you may get lost, where you may exhaust yourself, and things like this. Or you're just not given, even if you are able to go there, you're just not given the benefit, the mana that, um, somebody who is able to pass that test, receives. Mm. So, yeah, as we walked to Lake Vayu, which is a very, comparatively very small lake. Like, it's probably 100 feet in
Hmm.
diameter,
Okay.
or maybe 200. Right? Like it's um, it's very high. It's like just a little bit below the mountain top, and it, um, is surrounded by a little bit of grass, and you can feel the altitude there. But more importantly, what I saw, the ancestors were there, the protector beings were there, and they were very protective. You could see how much deep honor they had for this place. Mm, mm. Those beings who were not in the body, and how much they really respected this lake. Mm. And the brothers reflected that very much. So as we came closer to the lake, there was a spot. They stood there and asked permission again, and we put our shoes away. They were walking in socks. I took off my shoes. I by shoes I mean I'm usually wearing these flip flop kind of slippers, which are easy to take off, and that's usually what I wear because I use the opportunity to be barefoot as much as possible in these places of power. So putting them away, feeling the grass, feeling the earth, so full of blessings. Every place of power has something to offer, and it's unique. There is an especially powerful time in these places of power. There are times when they kind of wake up and open up. Even every day, there are times where, like at night, some of these places become kind of closed down, and it's not good to be there. The brothers were saying that they are only there from sunrise to sunset, um, or before sunrise. They come there to kind of, along with the gods, wake up and bring the energy of the sun. But I have been in other places of power too, like some of the deserts in Anza Borrego, which is southern California, the very southern California, almost it's the border of Mexico, right? But there are places where it can be dangerous to go at night because the energies are very, very strong, and people get tested. I was saying these thoughts. People have lost their lives, um, being lost there without water because there are these beings that pull you here and there. And when we went to Lake Vayu, I saw a lot of protector beings. And it was this time of power that we were invited there. And performing again the world healing blessing there. It felt very different from the top of Mauna Kea, because the top of Mauna Kea, you are able to access so many dimensions, heavenly dimensions of enlightenment. And it just kind of transforms these kind of blessings into a much more powerful, open, and powerful in a way that it can project that light to all different places. So here at Lake Vayu, it had a very different quality to it. And after performing that, the return journey back was also another experience by itself, because this elder kahuna Nui, who was earlier, he was a little more energetic, but because of performing these rituals and receiving mana, he actually grew very tired and exhausted because his body had been exposed to so much mana that it was um, too much for him to kind of in a very short time. So he was feeling very exhausted, and we had to help him. The younger brother and me holding him at points, helping him climb, giving him a little push from the back, or pulling him to climb back um, to where the cars were parked. And this was all throughout this thing. The younger brother was following his kuleana. Kuleana is responsibility. His kuleana, he mentioned, was to teach, to talk about this, to help others understand what was happening. So he was very openly sharing, explaining the words, explaining um, the rituals and such. And as we walked, he was also pointing out the presence of different akua. The akua of the wind, the akua of the moon, mm, papa, the akua of the earth. And there are different little cinder cones or mountain tops where he said, oh, this aqua appears there quite often. And how the aqua would appear behind a cloud so that people wouldn't see them. So also one of the interesting things here is that the aqua felt the vibration from phones was disruptive for them. So they had asked the two brothers to completely switch off their phones, and they asked us also to do that, and also to not take pictures of these sacred places because the akua appear there and they don't want to be seen by those who are not completely pono yet. So they actually deleted their own pictures from earlier, etc. Once they were told by Tutu Pele, Grandma Pele, the goddess of fire, lava, to do that. And yeah, we switched off our phones and we went beyond time. We went beyond uh, knowing what time it was and just being there with the entire day. Um, and mm, as we walked back, mm, meeting more and more of these Akuma, I felt even the physical reality shifted so much. The light had a very heavenly quality to it. As we were walking back, I noticed it. It looked so surreal, even though I was looking at the same rocks that I had seen earlier, the same mountain, the same clouds. It had just this beautiful, glowing quality that as if I was in an alternate dimension. Mm. And the colors looked really different, and it was just like I was in multiple dimensions at the same time. Mm. And yeah, after we came out of the boundary there, they stood there again, the same place where they had asked for permission and they had chanted and sang. They stood there again, and their beautiful chanting and singing ritual, thanking the gods, thanking the Aqua for being there, for having them, and having just the most heart-touching connection to the land. And I cried and cried as I saw them crying, crying. Mm. And mm, mm, I have only their phone number. Mhm. And their names. And after that, we had such a beautiful goodbye ceremony. Again, sharing ha and blessing each other and recognizing mm, that we are ohana.
Mm.
Recognizing that we are family. Recognizing, even though the words we use are different, even though we may call them energy of the land and they may call them akua, even though, like, when I go to a place of power, I have my expression of honoring it in a very different way from theirs. Like when I go there, if I find like some garbage, I pick it up and put it in my pocket to bring it out, and I do whatever I can to honor that land. But more importantly, I'm in deep communion with that land in an inward way. They have, um, because of their culture and their language and their tradition, they have a very systematic way of doing that. But when they saw me doing that, they recognized what I was doing, and the gods recognized the honor, that we expressed. But seeing them doing it systematically, that it's part of their people's way to do that. That touched me so much. Mm. And yeah, they had 4 stages to these things. Like before going in, they had asking permission, including permission what to bring, what to wear, etc. And once they went there, there was a welcoming, or the invitation, actually, the invitation of the guards to come there. And then the third one was welcoming them and receiving them, praising them, and mm, kind of getting the blessing from their presence. And at the end, there was the gratitude, thanking them and saying goodbye. Mm. And each of these stages they did so beautifully, powerfully. Mm. Mm. So once we were outside of that land, that was the longest one because they were leaving. Um, they expressed so much love and gratitude. Both of them cried so much, and especially the younger one, because he was going through these tests and learning to be Pono. He was just so thankful for being allowed to come to Lake Wayu. Mm. And mm, it was just so heart touching. And I actually invited them after that uh, to spend more time together, because it was also my birthday. I felt maybe could invite them and we could have a meal together. But Tutu Pele told them to go home directly. They had a long drive also. Um, mm, and they also had to visit Tutu Pele in Kilauea, mm, near the lava, her place of residence, to speak with her before they leave the island. So they actually had to change their flights because Tutu Pele was a little bit angry with them for having fought earlier a couple of weeks ago for some reason. Tutu Pele doesn't want people to be separate. They want everybody to be harmonious. So she was teaching them by being mad at them a little bit with so much love, and yes, so with so much that happened that day, energy was just so powerful one after the other, and being sunburned, being exhausted, um, returning back home, meeting some more friends later. This is how the ending of the birthday was sipping kava. Kava is this is not kava I'm drinking. This is a tea from Hawaiian Hawaiian Island Tea Company. It says, and it says aloha.
Aloha. All right.
And kava is from the root of a tree, which is powdered and mixed with water, and um, or sometimes just fresh kava is from the root, the juice of that directly, and it has a very warrior energy, ancient, mm,
Like
warrior.
Rajasic, to use
Mm,
a Hindu term.
not really. It's much more nuanced. Uh, it's very grounding. It's very protective. It's brave. It's like it feels like the energy of the land, um, very strongly. If you put it in a drink, that's what it would be like. And drinking it, it also kind of is very, very relaxing for the body. Your muscles relax very much. The first time I had kava, I was like, oh my god, what is happening? All my muscles are like so relaxed. Um, I was really surprised. It took me. It was so unexpected. Um, but yeah, I connected with the energy of kava a few months ago when I felt called to drink it. So ending the birthday, um, sipping kava, and having a lau lau. Lau lau is a Hawaiian traditional dish as well.
Mm.
Um, it was a very um, powerful, transformative birthday. Like I said, magical beyond measure.
Mm. Yeah.
Because of that reason. So yes, I went on this huge monologue to tell you all about it as much as I could remember. But there are so many little things, so many nuances I could keep speaking about. Did this bring up any questions? What resonated with you most? I would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, like before we went into this, I definitely had like a handful of kind of elaboration questions at certain
Mm.
points of your journey. But I think more pertinent now after listening to you is the things I kind of resonated with along the way, I guess. And I guess one of them was just seeing like the parallels between like the Hindu religion and what the kahunas were doing. For example, well, actually, even just with the fact that energetically you felt compelled to remove your shoes, I was like, oh, this is like going into a Hindu temple. It's going into a
Mhm.
holy place. You take off your shoes, and you know, like I can't sense energies to that degree, but like people like you can at this point. So for you, it's like, oh, of course I'm taking off my shoes because I'm receiving prana or mana in this case from the land or the temple. And so I thought that was fascinating. You know, the brothers, they're doing puja. Basically, they're doing like their worship,
Mhm.
their rituals.
Mhm.
I think is that called yagya? Yagnya? I don't
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
doing their rituals, connecting to the higher forces, the gods,
Mm.
and expressing devotion, like bhakti
Mm.
yoga. So
Mm.
as you were recounting all of this, I was just kind of like noting the parallels like that.
Yes. Mm.
And yeah, was there anything else that stood out? Well, I loved that you made a point not only to learn, the Hawaiian terminologies by memory, um, but it was good to hear you explain like all the little aspects of the Hawaiian spirituality, their
Mm.
own sort of indigenous um, practice, I guess you could say,
Mm.
because you really don't hear about that here in
Mm.
America. Like it's just like, oh, Hawaii's over there. There was one king we know who was named Kamehameha the Third or whatever, and their language sounds like Japanese almost, and like that's kind of the most we know. And
Mm.
of course Lilo and Stitch, right? You said, oh, what is it? Ohana means family, right? Like
Mm.
I think everyone who grew up in the 90s knows that word. But yeah, so it was good to hear more about the Hawaiian pantheon of gods. It was good to hear about like their natural, how they relate to the land and the higher forces that reside there. The fact that they do have the ability to perceive them very tangibly. I think that's a great glimpse into like indigenous cultures in general, like the Native Americans and just any native culture where there's like a shaman, and they
Mm.
have this great reverence for the earth. Like the European settlers come in and they kick everyone out, right? And they're like, magic's not real, and like barbarians. So like you know, there's no like nobody interviewed the natives to be like, well, why do you revere the land so much? Why do you think there's higher
Mm.
forces? Why do you think there's gods? They just were like, Christianity is the way. So obviously, whatever you guys think is just make believe, right? So it's good to hear. I feel like this is kind of like a time capsule, these two
Mm.
brothers, where we see like a direct, like unbroken
Mm.
tradition of what it means to live in the land in like a nice,
Mm.
pristine sort
Mm.
of natural environment.
Mm.
And yeah, so that was beautiful to hear about.
Mm.
And of course, the places of power. You
Mm.
know, I had recently watched Turia's. She did like a little discourse presentation on places of power and like how do you access them? Like, what do you do once you're there to like kind of tune into the energies? So it was good to hear you elaborate more
Mm.
on like how I or the viewer or anyone interested in spirituality can like more consciously relate to these
Mm.
places. Like, what
Mm.
do they look like in the first place, right?
Mm.
Like mountains, cool. Remote
Mm.
locations like that, like, right?
Mm.
And then how do you properly show respect to those places, and how do you get the most benefit
Mm.
out of
Mm.
being there, and how do you give back, right,
Mm.
in the
Mm.
most effective way?
Mm.
So, I mean, we call that grid work in common spiritual parlance
Mm.
nowadays,
Yeah.
connecting you as a human vehicle to the land to
Mm.
like do what
Mm.
you did. Basically, the
Mm.
world blessing ceremony, where the goal, I guess, is to kind of, activate as much light as possible and spread that,
Mm.
and kind of
Mm.
like let that radiate through the collective consciousness
Yeah.
for everyone's
Mm.
benefit. Yeah.
Mm.
So these were kind of the things I was thinking about the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm happy to speak a little bit more about the parallels, especially. The parallels were very apparent to me. I didn't think of it as parallels between Hinduism and their thing because their tradition. But what I was naturally doing, which may have come from the different paths I walked, including Hinduism, Buddhism, etc. But what I learned from, most importantly, mysticism, which goes to the core of these practices rather than kind of the more ritualistic outward thing that people do, to kind of go to the essence of that and practice that. So it may mean like instead of doing very physical things to express your gratitude and all that, which can be very helpful in the beginning as you're learning and you don't really perceive the nuanced, subtle energies. So you are, taking a physical object like flowers to the temple to offer to the god. When you become more advanced as a mystic, you offer your light, which is a much deeper offering and much more well received by this place of power, or these beings, these gods, mm, as an offering. They love that so much more. Mm. Because you are a being of light. We are beings of light. Mm. And it doesn't diminish your light in any way. It just increases that. It's just kind of a sharing of that. And the the parallels, like as they spoke of how they respected the land and cared for it, etc., etc., it was also kind of very validating in a way to see from their perspective how all the mystical things I was doing, um, that I learned from my teachers, from my community, had a deep significance. Mm. And hearing from their akua, that mm, the aloha that I bring is very well received, and they treat us as keiki, as children, and to disturb us from doing this kind of offering and being there is heba, which really kind of brought so much gratitude to to see how much this connection that I've had with the land for years has been well received, and it's so real. mm, when someone who sees that from a third person perspective and talks about that from their perspective, yeah, that was just wonderful. um, the well, there was this time when I was in Hawaii. This was about 3 or 4 years ago. Hmm. For couple weeks, mm, on a diving trip, scuba diving here. And every time I meditated, every single time, I felt the energy of the land. I felt the the plants, the mountains, the water calling me. Mm. And kind of welcoming me just to to fully be here. Mm. Mm. So I just followed that call. I visited many different places, met these different akua. At that time, I didn't have the words for it, but I perceived them in my own mystical way without having to know their names. Or just kind of feeling their energy, mm, honoring that part of the land. Some of the places here, like mm, a very important place here called the place of refuge. Mm, 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 for example. Mm, mm. I think there was a small internet glitch, but
Yeah.
mm,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can. But
Okay,
yeah,
glitch over.
yes, there are many places here, mm, which have a very strong presence of the Akua and are very healing places. Mm. and going there cleanses and transforms you. Mm. Mm. So after years of this building this connection, slowly visiting and being on the land, um, yeah, this was the height of this. This was like a breakthrough in actually communicating with the Akua, channeling them, speaking with them, seeing them, having two of their spokespersons kind of explaining the uh, practical aspects, the names, the forms, the traditions. That was great. Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, as you explained this little kind of tidbit section here, you know, another 1,000 questions resurfaced that I had forgotten about.
Mm.
But like one of them, well, this isn't a question, but it's just something I wonder is like, well, I'm curious now, like what are the native Hawaiian spiritual practices? Like what are those guys' sadhana? Is it just kind of like the puja stuff, the devotion? Or do they do meditation? Do they do like chakra meditations, like third eye exercises and things like that, you know?
Mm.
And so I don't know if you have insight on that, but
Mm.
um, another thing I was wondering is, so you perceive the Akua's energies.
Mm.
Did you see forms, or were they just kind of like formless balls of light
Mm.
that some people could see and some can't?
Um, I saw poli'ahu very, very clearly.
Yeah.
She had a form that was huge, about 100 feet, and she stood tall on the top of the there's the sacred part of the mountain. She stood there, and she was snowy white in color. There's this little bluish tinge to it, and she held in her hand a kind of a wand as well, which she used in different ways. And sometimes she didn't have it. And the other gods, I felt the the wind brought. Mm, um, mm, mm. Uh, and I've met this wind god before too, or the god riding that wind, earlier when I visited the same place too. And mm, yeah, it was a masculine figure, and it was much smaller, and some of them looked like Hawaiian warriors, but with more. They had something different about them. Some of them had red, and they had armor. Um, some of them, some of the protector beings I saw in Lake Vayu, they held spears in their hand. Um, but they also came in physical form. Um, I was on the top of this mountain, very far away from vegetation and stuff, and uh, it's really funny. There was a ladybug that came and landed on me, came back to me again and again and again, and would fly away, and I would hold it and honor it because I knew that was the Akua expressing um, their presence as an insect, and it just felt like so magical. Like when the insect landed on me, I felt the mana coming into my body. There was also a moth that came and landed on me. The Hawaiian brothers, um, they told me the moth is the symbol of ancestors making their presence felt and blessing.
Hmm.
And yeah, yeah, they also confirmed that the aqua come in different forms as well. And yeah, seeing them is one way. Feeling their presence is probably possible for a lot more people to feel their presence. You can feel the power in the air. It's hard to describe. You may get goosebumps, but and such kind of physical things, but you can kind of experience them in your energy, how your energy is different when you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you enter a room, you can kind of feel the energy of the room, right? Um, and you kind of feel that, oh, this feels like a nice place to be. Or sometimes you're like, oh, there's something weird about this place. Those who are sensitive
Yeah.
can feel that, and it's easier to feel probably than to see for a lot of people. Mm. And you can also hear, right? I was hearing what
Hmm.
poli'ahu was saying. I got many different messages. I channeled them. Sometimes I was um, sometimes it's a knowing without words that you get. Like when I was preparing to wear my um, you know extra layers of clothes, um, and my hat and stuff, because it was like sunny. I just kind of had that knowing that was like, oh, just come as you are. Mm. And to remove my flip flop shoes before I entered, right? It was just uh, beyond words.
Yeah. 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 That just made me think of something too that came up earlier as well. So, remind me, I kind of spaced out a little bit. So,
Mhm.
like my memory is not, or I need tea basically. So, yeah. So the words. So you were hearing. Okay, yes. Here it is. So you guys, you and the Kahunas, you could kind of like actually clairaudiently hear stuff mentally. But you mentioned something interesting, like on the paths to these holy places for people who are allowed entry in the first place. There's a bit of like a fairy tale sort of trial and tribulation testing phase on your
Mm.
way to that place, and it comes in the form of thoughts. First of all, divergent thoughts that might normally tempt you under certain circumstances in your daily life. But here
Mm.
they're just cropping up kind of like seemingly for no reason.
Mm.
And, it made me think of just what I've experienced in my own spiritual path where like, these thoughts will manifest a lot of the time. Like whenever you're going about your sadhana, your spiritual practice, right? And these divergent thoughts will come in. Some of them seem like things you should follow, like an important
Mm.
lead, but really they're just distracting you. And
Mm.
some of them will be more blatantly like negative, trying to pull you into old stories to like dwell upon, right?
Mm.
And we're talking about higher dimensional beings here, so you know there are forces that will try to distract you and get you off of your path. And maybe there's some of those on these sacred places. Maybe there's a mixture of good and bad. You did say like the mana helps protect you. So presumably there's
Mm.
there's stuff to protect from. Maybe you need to be protected from yourself though, mostly.
Mm.
Um, but
Mm.
like I literally thought of this. I think it was today and maybe just recently in general. But you don't have to worry about anything if your resolve is pure. If your resolve
Mhm.
on enlightenment is pure, for example, or your resolve to righteously achieve the place of devotion, right?
Mm.
Because if it is, then you'll say netties, so to speak. You're like, not that. I don't need that. Like, yeah, that's an interesting diversion, but like,
Mm,
I have my goal, and like that can wait until
mm,
later.
mm,
So, so I just found it fascinating. Like that was like another key important parallel that came to mind, is
mm,
that like the greatest protection is just maintaining your purity of resolve to
mm,
achieve the
mm,
goal,
mm.
and then you
Yes.
don't have to worry about negative things really as much. So, yeah.
Yes. So the way this happens is that there are what are called dharmapalas
Mm.
or dharma protectors, the protector beings who are there to kind of, yeah, warrior beings who are there to protect what is sacred. Mm. So these beings there are there in their light bodies, in their second attention way of being able to communicate with you through, in a way telepathically, right? So when they are there, and they are strong, they are powerful beings, even though they don't have a body, they are able to cause things to happen, right? Um, and even something, if it's a mental thing that happens to you which makes you feel like extremely lazy and tired, that you just want to go back to your car, or you feel like, oh, it's too hot or it's too cold, or you're too exhausted to do this, or things that make you kind of, even if you are there, you're kind of fantasizing about stuff that means you're not able to receive being there.
Mm.
You're in your daydreams. So as you enter these places, these strong beings, protector beings, see whether you are righteous. And righteousness just means being selfless. As opposed to having your own agenda, you know, having, desires for yourself is okay, but there are things where you are very selfless, you just want things for yourself, or you're harmful towards others, you know you want to use the power that you gain there for things that are not righteous, but things that are like, oh, me, mine, I, me, mine, I, me, mine. Whereas you are there selflessly for dharma. So for example, throughout this entire thing, my intention, I didn't have like any of my own agenda. Mm. I didn't want anything. I didn't specifically ask for this or that. Right? All I wanted was to bring more light, mm, into the world, to others, more and more enlightenment to support others. And they recognize this. They can see your mind very clearly. There's nothing to hide. Mm. Mm. And when they see your resolve, it's like, as you were saying, you're very right. It's like, for example, what I can give is, the Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, where
Ah.
uh, Frodo is on this mission to take this ring of power, the one ring to rule them all. He has to take it to Mordor and put it into Mount Doom, into the lava of Mount Doom, where it was forged, and only there it can be destroyed. But along the way, in the first one, you see how it creates temptation in others who have a desire for power. um, and you know one of them tries to take it from Frodo, um, yeah, there is a test that you can see. They have thoughts like, I want it, it's my precious, right? uh, but the hobbits, because Frodo is selfless and wants to, fulfill this mission, and volunteers for this mission when he sees everyone else is quarreling over it for power. He volunteers to take this very difficult journey, which means he's tested again and again and again, through all these orcs attacking them, and all these trials and tribulations, which bring out his selflessness more and more. Mm. So in that way, there are trials and tribulations, but it's only to uncover your true nature.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
well said.
yeah, it's only there as a help. It's not a punishment, but it's there to help you see who you are and go beyond your selfishness.
Right.
Mm.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. Like if you're on the path,
Mm.
if you're on the spiritual path, for example, then the trials are an asset
Mm.
because you
Mm.
can use them to, uncover hidden, programs, samskaras, and then
Yes.
bring them into the light and then
Mm.
process them and then let your good qualities triumph. So,
Mm. Yes,
yeah.
it's all there to serve you, because life wants you to wake up. Life wants you to be enlightened, and it's teaching you to get out of your own way.
It's a good way to put that.
Mm.
Right. Because we keep bumping up against things ultimately, which is us getting in our own way. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm.
right on. I like the Lord of the Rings analogy. That's perfect.
Mm. Mm.
The resolve. And actually, you were at a volcano, so it's kind of funny.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
You,
Mauna Kea itself is no longer active, I think. But Mauna Loa, where Kilauea is, where Tutu Pele, Grandma Pele lives, um, is the most active volcano in the world, I think. And it's erupted many times in the past few years. Um, and it there are earthquakes, like, I I I felt such a powerful earthquake last night, but apparently there were lots of earthquakes in one night. So that happens here in Hawaii, and it's a magical place.
yeah, I can
Mm.
imagine. It's crazy that you get, like you said, the I keep wanting to say pastoral, the like the nice nature vegetation
Mm.
sort of view, and then you also have the icy peak and you have the fiery peak. It's very like just
Mm.
classically kind of like a blend of,
Yeah.
again, the fairy tale sort of vibe of like there's the four elements and like there's an earth kingdom over here and like a fire world over there.
Yes, and a lot of people just come here for tourism, and they have no idea about the sacredness of the land.
Right.
And they just come here for the beaches, or for, surfing in Waikiki, or, you know, whatever.
Instagram.
Yeah, yeah. Like, it's very Instagrammable, but if you have the right etiquette, the honor, the openness to see, you will see so much more. You will receive so much more. This place is full of blessings. And most people are missing out because they don't have the right respect for the land. They come here to
Hmm.
kind of like take from the land, and they don't have the honor to give back in a way. So whenever you go to a place of power, it's important to kind of bring your best. And if people are just coming here to kind of like follow their selfishness, it treats them very differently. You may still have fun, but at what expense? Yeah.
Right, right. There's no development there. It's just, a
Mm,
stream
mm,
of fulfillment
mm,
of sensory
mm.
delights, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and even like, you can have sensory delight, but in a balanced way,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing wrong with surfing here, enjoying the
Mm-hmm.
waters and such, but just remember that there is so much more to it, to
Yeah.
this land, that for generations and generations, the indigenous people have connected and found all these blessings here, and they are still connected. When you are able to meet somebody who is connected with the land, the way they speak about the land, the way they just are in the language, in the culture, you can feel that respect for the land. Even when you see a hula dance, right? If you really connect to the essence of it rather than just seeing it as entertainment, there is that expression of the love, of, of the aloha, right? And yeah, those who are listening, I really invite you, dig deeper. Don't stop at the surface level. Mm. And receive this blessing that is Hawaii. Hawaii.
Right. Got to use the right, proper local
Yeah, I try,
pronunciation.
but it's I'm just learning. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's 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 okay if you don't know all these things, as long as you have an openness to learn, as long as you know when it is presented to you, try to receive as much as you can.
Right.
Mm,
Right,
mm,
right. Instead of letting it just wash over, you're like, oh
yeah.
yeah, tourism, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. Well, thanks so much for sharing all the details. You know, I was stoked to be the one to receive all of that. Of all that. Because in social media, it was just like a small post, and there was all these like hidden details that were
Mm,
clearly waiting to be expressed, and
mm, mm,
yeah, I just, I love learning about different cultures, different spiritual systems, different, languages and things like that. So
mm,
it's
mm,
definitely a pleasure and a treat to
mm,
hear the
mm.
direct experience of all that.
Yeah, thank you for the curiosity and your questions, and your honor for learning this, and your, you know, openness to learn from different cultures. Like I remember you had asked about the Hawaiian practices, and I remember I didn't speak about it, but from what I understand, it is the journey to become pono, to become righteous, and there are cleansings and purifications and all that, and it has a lot to do with receiving mana and being righteous and being eligible to receive mana by being righteous. And I don't know much about it, and I'm humbly learning more about it, but it has a lot of depth. It's very perceptible if you're open to learn, and perceive mana. So it's a real thing, and definitely you can see when people have mana, you can feel that in them. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for all these questions. Thank you for proposing this in the first place, for your initiative, and yeah, your openness to learn is really what, mm, it's the mark. The humility to learn is the mark of somebody who will reach the goal. Mm, mm,
Yes,
mm,
indeed.
mm,
Happy to
mm,
hear it. Thank you.
mm,
All right,
mm,
Ra, thanks for
mm,
coming today.
mm,
Yeah, but before we go, guys, if you're interested in Ra Netjer and his spiritual coaching program, which is called the Integrated Awakening Program, you can check out his website, awakenwithra.com. You can definitely download his free app, which is on both Android and iPhone, called Integrated Awakening. And you can find some free master classes there. There's more content to unlock if you decide that you resonate with his integrated awakening program, and if you are, then you can do an assessment with him and see if it's right for you. And yeah, anything else you want to add, Ra?
I want to add that you are being called to awaken to your true nature. That is why you're here. You have been called by your higher self to discover true freedom, to discover true love, to discover true joy, to discover who you are. And don't stop when you're called. Accept that invitation and do your best to discover your enlightenment. And there's all the help, there's all the support. It's been done before. There is a very practical and balanced path that you can follow. And if it calls to you, if you feel this resonates with you, I'm honored to support you on your journey. Namaste.
Excellent. Namaste. All right, take care.